giggling, tittering, snicker, guffaws, chuckles, snorts, ha-ha, tee-hee, ho-ho, ha-ha, hee-haw. All this laughter. All I wanted was for the laughing to stop. It started off simple enough. I've been sitting in a restaurant on the road when the waitress caught my eye. Tall, red hair, amazing body. She came over to my table and asked what I wanted, and I made some half-assed joke in an attempt to spark conversation. She laughed, politely at first, a courtesy laugh, as if she'd heard it 1,000 times before. Then the laughter built, as if she was really getting the quip. It wasn't long before she was laughing uncontrollably, her curvaceous body jiggling until she fell on the floor in a giggling heap. At this point, I thought she was just making fun of me. The other patrons and waitstaff looked over. All eyes were on me and on the girl. Then the man behind the counter started to chuckle. The children at the corner booth erupted in hoots and giggles. It wasn't long, minutes really, before everyone in the entire place was deafening me with this strange round of laughter and applause. I smiled, though my face was red and I felt like flipping the table. I nodded, waved, and said a variety of self-depreciating apologies like, "Thank you, I'm here all week," and, "Hey, can't blame a guy for trying, right?" I'm sure they couldn't even hear me over their own mindless noise. This went on for 10, 15 minutes, and the restaurant only fell quiet again once I'd fled from my already damaged ego. On the streets, the drunken masses of nightlife wandered aimlessly from bar to bar. As I passed, they'd turn to look at me. They'd point, and they'd laugh. There's nothing unusual about a drunk laughing at something that isn't particularly funny. But this was different. Everyone was doing it. When I walked past the large windows of the taverns and bistros, no matter how ritzy or hardcore, it was like walking past a television set from the other side. Large glass screens through which the entertained viewers witnessed the most amusing act they'd ever seen. It didn't stop, even when I heaved a garbage can through one of these screens. Patrons with rotted trash on their dinner plates, or freshly broken glass on their clothes and in their faces. They just continued to react with glee. It was like my violent outburst was just the climax of some elaborate comedy routine. In the days that followed, it occurred to me that I couldn't do anything. Anything. People wouldn't serve me. Cashiers fell behind their counters, doubled over. Waiters and bartenders dropped trays and glasses. Salesmen banged their fists on their desks, then their heads. All of them laughing, and laughing, and laughing. One man, a heavy-set businessman with a cane, I think he actually asphyxiated and died right in front of me. I robbed a bank. It was the first thing that came to mind when I realized I could do whatever I wanted. And I don't know what that says about me. I walked into the place, and shouting over the echoes of happy, demented noise, I demanded 2 sackfuls of cash. The only problem with this plan, the only hindrance to this bold, epic crime, was the fact that they were more interested in throwing handfuls of bills into the air over my head than actually filling the sacks. I didn't need the money, though, as I came to realize being stinking rich is pointless when you can just push past a quivering employee and help yourself to anything on the shelves. Later, I walked into the police station just to see what would happen. The reaction was predictable. as I freely moved about the most secure areas of the most secure place I could walk to. I even heard laughter coming from behind a closed door. When I poked my head inside, there I was, on a myriad of computer monitors, where an endless loop of footage was playing. The bank heist. At first, the two cops inside were fixated on the screens, barely able to catch their breath. When their red, tear-streaked faces turned towards me, the real me, all they did was point, as if to say, "There's the guy," when their belly laughs grew louder. One thing I thought about, but something I'd never followed through on, was the fact that I could have pretty much anyone I wanted. Celebrities, pop stars, just random women I passed on the street. Anyone. As I say, that's not something I would do. That's not me. But it did pop into my mind. Just as quickly I realized that even if I was that sort of person, who could possibly do that while being laughed at? What was so hilarious? I must have spent hours in front of the mirror trying to see what might look silly or strange. I wore all different clothes. I combed my hair differently. I tried everything, but apparently I was still ridiculous. I stood on a rooftop once, planning to shout out at everyone below just to see what would happen. Everyone seemed to go about their normal lives until I called out to them. Then they all turned at once. Just as quickly, I was assaulted by a volley of the noise I'd become accustomed to, ricocheting off the buildings around me. I was truly the town laughingstock. It seemed to get worse as well. At first, I had to gain someone's attention for them to react to me. Eventually, however, all I had to do was crack the door open, or peer through my curtains, and anyone passing by would immediately snap their head to look at me. People started gathering on my lawn, random assortments of housewives, bikers, children, grandmothers, anyone and everyone. They'd stand there in clusters, just waiting for any sign of me. Sometimes one or two would wander off, either out of boredom or some unknowable influence, but they'd always be replaced by the same or a greater number. I couldn't take it anymore. Months had passed, and I wanted to die more than I wanted to hear their obnoxious expressions of joy anymore. I started shooting them. Pop, pop, pop. 1 minute laughing, the next, brains on the wall. They didn't duck or move away either. They just stood there and looked down the barrel of my gun. My guns, since I could have whatever I wanted. And they'd just smile and excitedly wait for the punchline. It didn't matter who they were, how they looked, their age, nothing. I didn't care, because as far as I was concerned, these lobotomized chuckle zombies were already as good as dead to me. The most I could hope for now was some peace and quiet. It never ended, though. For every one that went away, there was another, and another, and another. I caught into something after the bodies started piling up. I started checking wallets. People were coming in from other towns, other cities, all just to see the famous Laughingstock. All to point and snicker and hoot and collapse in a giggling heap. I checked one guy's ID, and he was from the next state over. What the fuck? That night, the night I realized this would never end, I put a gun to my own head and pulled the trigger. I didn't have to think about it. I didn't leave a long, drawn-out suicide note, because I'm sure it would have just become a best-selling humor novel at this point. Click. Yeah. Out of bullets. Otherwise, how would I be writing this? I'd convinced myself nothing would change, and that I didn't want to live in such a predictable, yet disorienting, disturbing world anymore. That's the point where everything changed, though. Since I tried to kill myself, nobody thinks I'm funny. They stare, leer, gawk, peer, focus in. They watch, they study, they squint, stalking, following, observing. They glare. They glare at me. They hate me, and I don't know why. What did I do that's worse than gunning them down in the streets? Worse than stealing from and abusing them? Why are they looking at me with such hatred in their eyes? Is it because I tried to end the joke? I want the laughter back.